Greetings, this is Darth Vader here, and I would be honored if you would join me as well as Clarity 2199 as we explore how my fate and the fate of the entire galaxy would have changed if the Jedi Order weren't a group of useless assholes. Let's begin a few thousand years prior to understand where this problem came from. During the days of Revan, he was a powerful Jedi Master who was exiled from the Jedi Order because he did not ask for the Council's permission before fighting against the Mandalorians. However, in this timeline, the Jedi Order is more humble and understanding. They understand that he does not need to ask their permission to go protect innocent people from a crowd of useless Mandalorians who are causing destruction towards innocent people. So in this timeline, the Jedi Order accepts Revan's actions and they allow him to explain his side of the story, which he does. He reconciles with the Jedi after he's defeated Malak, and his relationship with Bastila also comes to light. However, this version of the Jedi Order do not derive their pleasure from seeing other people miserable. So as a result, they allow Revan to stay married to Bastila openly in public, and they allow Jedi to get married. This results in powerful Force sensitives like Satele Shan being born and becoming more commonplace among the Jedi. As a result, the Jedi realize that if Jedi were to marry one another, then that would actually strengthen the Jedi Order's connection to the Force because of the amount of powerful Force offspring being born. This causes the Jedi Order to encourage marriage among Jedi members and allows them to raise those children as opposed to stealing younglings from their parents when they're just babies and brainwashing them into a cult that is led by a sociopathic goblin frogman. So as a result, younglings are recruited by their parents when they are elementary school age, of course, with permission from the parent, and every night after they are finished with their Jedi training, they go home to be with their families and reaffirm their love and trust in their families. This causes the Jedi Order to have a more family-focused environment instead of the socially deranged monastery that it was in the original timeline. As a result, the Jedi have a completely different mentality over who they promote. Qui-Gon becomes the Grand Master. Count Dooku becomes the Master of the Order because in this timeline, Qui-Gon hasn't died, so he has no reason to turn to evil. Yoda takes the position that is the most appropriate for someone in his advanced aged and physical condition. He becomes the Jedi historian, and Mace Windu becomes the IT guy working in cybersecurity. When Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon encounter me on Tatooine, they notice my strong connection to the Force and figure out that I am the Chosen One. However, in this timeline, because they are not obsessed with Senate politics and inaction, they actually notice the suffering that I and my people are going through on Tatooine, and they decide to intervene. So, Mace Windu, Qui-Gon, Kit Fisto, Obi-Wan, and a handful of other Jedi personally go to Tatooine and put an end to the oppression and slavery there. We are celebrating their great victory, freeing us from our slave owners, but the Jedi do end up taking a casualty or two here and there. During the Duel of Fates between Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan, the difference here is that because the Jedi actually care about each other and are not sociopaths like in the original timeline, they send extra reinforcements to help Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in the form of Count Dooku, who joins them. And because Count Dooku has joined Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan against Darth Maul gets washed. They chop him in half, but before letting him fall down the pit, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Dooku use the Force to levitate his head and torso back from falling into the pit, and they throw it in jail, and Dooku interrogates him extensively, using some ethical and some unethical methods in order to extract the information. This is how Dooku finds out that Darth Sidious and Palpatine are one and the same. He also finds out about the Grand Plan, and he relays this information to the Jedi Council so they can form a plan on how they are to wipe out the Sith. And what they decide to do is to change the circumstances in the galaxy in such a way that Palpatine is unable to rise to power and enact the grand plan. So that is how they decide that they are going to stop Palpatine. Meanwhile, my training goes apace very well. I have fewer emotional hangups because this time I am surrounded by friends and family. I've got my mom, who's allowed to come to the Jedi Temple and visit me. I've got my new stepdad, Qui-Gon. I've got Uncle Dooku, as well as my big brother Obi-Wan and his wife, Satine. We are one big happy family, and we look out for each other, and I am actually finding myself at peace most of the time. I even had a surprise birthday party that my mother and Padme decided to throw for me. But back to the events in the galaxy. During the time of the Clone Wars that are about to start, Palpatine attempts to manipulate the circumstances to rise to power. However, because we already knew that he was a Sith Lord and that he would try to rise to power, Dooku actually decides to use his wealth and his negotiation skills to rizz up the Federation of Independent Systems, which allows them to broker a peace treaty with the Galactic Republic. So the Confederacy of Independent Systems, known as the Separatists, are allowed to have a peace treaty with the Republic and to leave the Republic in peace with a financial settlement reached where everyone is happy and they're able to trade with each other and everyone gets rich. This stymies Palpatine's rise to power because there's no emergency for emergency powers to be thrown at him, allowing Chancellor Valorum to stay as the Grand Chancellor of the Republic because the conflict has been quashed. This allows the clone army to retire from public service and live with their Twi'lek wives. This pisses off Palpatine to no end because his entire plan has come to ruin. So he decides to retire from the Senate, move permanently to Korriban, recruit disaffected teenagers from all across the galaxy, and basically start a Sith army of his own. This essentially means that he is forced to abandon the rule of two and go back to the Great Sith War methods of people like Lord Khan and Darth Malgus before Darth Bane, because the Darth Bane strategy has completely failed. Now let's stop and think about this for a second. In order for the Sith grand plan to work, in order for Palpatine to become the Senate, become the Emperor, and rise to power like he did, that plan is so stupid that it only works in a very specific set of circumstances. Palpatine would need 4 things going in his favor at the same time in order for this to work. He would need a morally depraved Senate that would just throw emergency powers at him at a whim. He would need a galaxy in turmoil. He would need sociopathic Jedi that treat their recruits like dirt, and some disaffected cronies to serve as his underlings. He would need all of those things all at the same time in order to rise as the Emperor. However, in this circumstance, because the Jedi are not sociopaths, we delete that one. Because the war has been calmed down, literally 2 of the factors that he needed completely are not there, stymieing his chance to become Emperor of the galaxy. As a result, he goes back to the Darth Malgus way of doing things. He recruits an army of Sith, getting ready to make war on the Jedi. He is discussing with them the plan when suddenly, in the temple in Korriban, there's an explosion as a Republic gunship tracked them down and started shooting. I jump off the ship along with the Jedi Council. I have been made a master at this point, and Ahsoka has been made into a fully fledged Jedi Knight, and we assault the Emperor's forces. Well, in this case, he's not the Emperor. We assault Palpatine's forces, and we're actually making quick work of his Sith minions, and he is furious. He starts blasting everybody in the room with lightning, but his lightning is way more powerful, because although he did not get to execute Order 66, although he did not get to become Emperor, he did get the Myrrh Talisman and the Kyber Crystal, which augment his power significantly. The first torrent of lightning fries Mace Windu as well as Qui-Gon and incapacitates them, burning off a lot of their flesh. He then tries to do that to me and Dooku, but we jump out of the way, and he then tries to shoot me with magical lightning that's meant to infect me, and that is when Yoda jumps in the way in order to take the blast himself, getting turned into a rak ghoul in the process, because this energy was powered by the Mer talisman. He's laughing at what he did to Yoda. I come behind him and slice him in half, ending the threat to the galaxy. We then take Mace Windu and Qui-Gon to the Bacta tanks to heal. We don't know what to do with Yoda as a rak ghoul. We don't want to kill him, so we drop him off at Dagobah, and hopefully he's able to live there in peace for the rest of his days. And that is when Qui-Gon, Mace Windu, and Dooku decide that they are getting too old for this shit, and they retire from the Jedi Order, leaving Obi-Wan as the Grand Master and me as the new Master of the Order. And then after my new promotion and an exhausting battle, I go home and have a nice long night with Padme. And that is what would happen if the Jedi weren't assholes. Let me know what you think in the comments below.